talk about her cross-stitch generation. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you. Now, it says here, alpaca farmer, yes, I have heard of alpacas. They live near Mount Marsden, New South Wales. There's about 30 of them. I'm a cave scientist. I can say that I've got a ticket that says that I'm a cave scientist. I've got another ticket that says I'm a hardware engineer. And the fibre arts is just great fun. So let's put them all together at an LCA. First of all, what is cross-stitch? Look, it's one of those beautiful portable little bits of artwork that you can take a grid of canvas and then put these little stitches, which is, as you can see on the cartoon there, you build it up with an X. And some people spend an awful lot of time with those sort of things. I'd probably do one per year. I'm by no means an exceptional cross-stitcher. But if I see a library of software and it's missing something, then I start to get interested. So let's move on. If you went to the LCA in Sydney, the Arts Mini Conference, Katie McLaughlin gave a great talk on cross-stitch using Python project 626. I would strongly suggest, if you're interested, to have a look at her updated talks that she gave in PyCon, which unfortunately I missed seeing last year. But it explains exactly what her project is. That's apparently how you pronounce it. IH is how you type it. And you can download that. You would need, in order to finish the software install, you will need to get a copy of her executable, which is in Python. That's IH. And anyway, during Katie's talk, she was explaining how she had to spend an awful lot of time and effort in getting the manufacturer's colours available in her cross-stitch pattern. During that LCA talk, I foolishly mentioned, would it work with a restricted palette? Because I was thinking in terms of natural alpaca colours. Of course, it would equally apply to perhaps some natural coloured plant fibres or human hair if you're into that sort of thing. But nevertheless, she said, well, I suppose you could. And she said, but you would need access to some alpaca fibre. Now, as I have heard of alpacas, that aspect of it isn't really a problem. Now, natural fibres, such as the hair on your head, comes in, you can see around the audience. I mean, look, we've got some people with light coloured hair, we've got myself with the grey hairs, a few dark hair, some red-heady sort of colours and things, but under the microscope, it's all just either completely clear, which is super blonde, or various shades of brown. Now, these little brown elements are attached to the hair cell as the hair grows by it's just a natural process of adding these colours, this single brown little dot. It looks like a tiny little dot under the microscope. But once you zoom out and look en masse at a mass of fibres, it starts to take on a colour of its own. So you get these ranges of black through white, shades of grey, brown, and all sorts of various things. These colours don't fade. Now the colours in your clothing may fade, but the colours in your hair and in the alpacas, they don't fade. Anyway, why else would you want to restrict a palette? Just artistic reasons. You might want to do a sepia tone. And there they are. Aren't they pretty? All the different colours. But it's all really one colour. Brown. That's part of our herd. That's the female herd. We've got a male herd, which is the big commercial herd. But that was when it actually used to rain. Okay, the Alpaca Association has produced a shade card of official colours of alpaca, so that me as an alpaca breeder can theoretically take one of these rather expensive shade cards out into the paddock, grab an alpaca, which doesn't want to be grabbed, and compare the colour on the mid-side of the alpaca, which but at this stage is probably jumping up and down. As you can see on this shade card, there's a number of colours from white, or creamier really, it's not really white, it's a cream, through various sepia tones. There's a black, there is actually a true black. The greys, there's several greys, and an obscure colour at the end, 3 colours there, called rose grey. Now, between you and me, that's probably a marketing term, but it basically means brown with some white in. So I thought, well, if you look carefully, you'll see that there are numbers and letters associated with each of these colours. This means we can make a catalogue. How do we create an alpaca palette? First of all, I photographed the swatch card. Now, you would say, oh look, just put it on the scanner. Well, no, because the bundles are kind of 3D, and if you put it on the scanner, it sits up above the scanner, and yeah, it doesn't quite work. So anyway, I photographed it using a camera. I then edited the photo using the GIMP just so as to make the black bits black and the white bits white. And as I mentioned, the white is really cream, the white alpaca is cream, but the card itself is white. The black lettering is black. Now, Katie's project 626 uses JSON format for the palette. I'm looking over there because for technical reasons I can't see it here. Now, in it, this changed, but at the moment, let's just work with the JSON format shown below there. From the swatch, so what I did, I select the colour tool in using one of the colour tools. There's a colour select tool, and you can set a radius of 21. It seems to work for what we're doing, and average the colours. So you can see there's a grey there. If you look really carefully, you'll see that that grey is really made of lots of hairs. There's black hairs and white hairs. There's no grey hairs. There's no such thing as a grey hair. These aren't grey hairs. They're black hairs and white hairs. So this is why you need to average it. It also means it's not going to reproduce. If I went and redid all my colours, I'm not going to get exactly the same because I'm not going to position my colour exactly over the swatch. And my copy of the swatch, actually I've got 2 copies of the swatches, they're slightly different, is not going to be the same as if you went to the association and bought yourself a swatch. There's subtle differences. So technically, and effectively it's the same. Practically, if you were an artist, they're the same. But if you were going to be a scientist and said, I really, really, really want to know what exactly the numbers of colours, no, this is not the way to do it. We're artists. So there's my attempt to do a medium fawn. We specify the name as medium fawn. That's what was on that alpaca swatch. There's a code MF202. That was on the swatch. There's a hex number, which I've obtained from GIMP, and the RGB at the same time from GIMP. So that's the format that's used in Project 626. If you download Project 626, which you can find, you'll get a requirement for that kind of format. There's another format there, which is the later version, which I haven't got working. Have a look at my 16 colours in my shared area. You can see all the rest of them. I did have a slide which had all of them, but Mike said everyone would fall asleep. Okay, testing. Testing's always fun. I installed Project 626 and swapped out the supplied short alpaca colours for mine. I obtained a copy of Ich from Katie. I had to get help to sort out the Python environment. I am not, by any means, an expert Python programmer, but I can hack around. Because look, the source code's there. Set up the environment. Thank you so much to Mike Lake for helping me with that. And created some test images. Now the first test image was with Katie's little test image. I've blown it up there so you can actually see it. It's only really pixels in size. I had some trouble doing my very first paint fills because good old GIMP, oh that's the same as that, but boom, let's just overwrite it. I had a bit of care and created a test using the colours out of my new palette. Then ran Ich with the appropriate parameters to produce a very first CrossStitch Lookup chart. So that is a portion of that little cartoon that you saw. And if you can see on the left, there's the colour. Then the next one is the number of stitches that you're required to sit there and stitch back and forth. The alpaca code and the alpaca name. That's not the name of the alpaca, that's the name of the colour of the alpaca. Yes, some of my alpacas have names. Now, what you might notice on there, and this is some of the fun things, is, and this is possibly the reason why 626 was deprecated, is there's some question marks, and apparently in later version that grayscale handling has been fixed. I have been told. I get errors when I compile it, but that's my problem, not yours. I'm sure some of you will be able to just get it all running and be perfect. But in the meantime, I was very happy to see a rendering. What you'll see on the right-hand side is the cartoon that indicates that, for instance, those little A's, you'll see that there's a question mark there because there is no pure white in alpaca. It's cream, remember? So therefore, the A's will be in the chart there as a question mark. So if you have some floss or some real white yarn, you can render the A's. Everything else, the greys it got confused over, which is, as I said, the difference between the two projects. Everything else, it found a colour for it, which is jolly good. So I thought, as another example from my caving background, I'll take one of my pictures and take a portion of it that would be kind of a canvas stitchable size and see what running it through Ich will produce. And wow, I thought that was rather nice. It's certainly starting to look more art and less alpacas in the paddock. So, as I said, Project 626 is deprecated, but if used within limits, it may be still useful to artists. Because its problems were only in the grayscale, you may only have one grayscale, or one grey colour, and all you have to do is look at the cartoon and substitute that colour that you knew. It's certainly possible to extend a palette. You may wish to have other natural colours which you photographed and or natural plant dyes, for instance, and make up your own palette using that idea. So have a real go at the newer version of Ich, if you like. And I would like to thank Katie McLaughlin for creating both Project 626 and Ich. It's been a lot of fun. But that kind of closes that loop from that question asked on the previous LCA. And I believe it was a little baby alpaca and its mama. Thank you.